Today is a special part of our interview series. I am so honored to be joined by Brian Tracy, one of the top success consultants, trainers, and speakers in the world. He has taken himself from rags to riches. He's addressed over 250,000 people, does that on a worldwide basis each year. He is the author of over 50 books, which have been translated into 35 languages, and authored more than 500 audio programs. Hi, Mr. Tracy. I'm so glad I have the privilege of speaking with you. I had the privilege, actually, of speaking with you or meeting you way back over 20 years ago when we both were speaking at a financial freedom real estate investors convention in Florida. And at that time, I was greatly impressed. And over the years, I've watched how you have helped transform the lives of hundreds of thousands of real estate investors and entrepreneurs through your seminars and books. And so I'm so thankful for you taking the time to share with my Landlord subscribers.
Well, it's a pleasure. I remember that convention in Florida. It was about 3 days. It was a really good convention. I still stays in my mind, which is unusual because I've given more than 5,000 presentations, so I don't remember them all.
Okay.
But let's go.
All righty. I've read that as part of your personal mission statement, you like to help people achieve their goals faster. And with that in mind, I hear from a lot of my Landlord subscribers, and they like the idea of how they can literally become millionaires through owning rental property.
Yes.
But one of their big concerns is, how long is it going to take? They sometimes wonder if it's going to take 20 or 30 years, and they don't want to get so old that they can't enjoy life after becoming a millionaire. They'd like to reach their real estate goals faster. So what would you say to them? What advice would you give them on helping them to reach their goals faster?
Okay, well, let's go right back to the beginning. 80-20 rule. 20% of people in any industry make 80% of the money. And then the top 20% of the top 20%, which is the top 4%, make vastly more than the others in the top 20%. And you go into the top 20% of the top 20% of the top 20%, which is the top 0.8%, and they make vastly more. They make 50 times as much. So what is the difference? I have been, by the way, a real estate developer. I've developed and built apartment buildings, industrial buildings, commercial buildings, self-storage, shopping centers. I've been a property owner and a renter and a landlord, so I know a little bit about this business. And what happens is the bottom to 80% will learn up to a certain point, and then they'll stop learning. They'll get into property and maybe take a seminar or read a book or back into it, and then they just stop learning about their craft. And what we call it is flatlining. And there's 25 years of research to prove this. So if you really want to be successful in real estate, you have to realize this is a serious business. Making money is very hard. Losing money is very easy. And so if you want to make money, you've got to really get serious. You've got to devote yourself, dedicate yourself to the craft of apartment or rental property ownership and constantly get better and better.
All right. Now, and you mentioned you have to increase or improve your craft and your skills involved.
Yes.
One of the things that I run into a lot when talking with rental property owners, in terms of the craft and the things that they get involved with, I'm concerned sometimes when I'm hearing them so much talk about the maintenance side of taking care of the properties, where I try to encourage them from time to time to focus perhaps less on the maintenance and more on working on their business as opposed to in their business. What would you say in regards to that?
Well, human beings, including property owners, have a natural tendency to slip into a comfort zone. So they do what they're comfortable doing rather than what needs to be done. I have spent almost a decade teaching business owners how to dramatically increase their income and their time off. And the first thing I teach them is to farm out everything that can be done by someone else who works at a lower hourly wage than you do. So let's give you an example of this. Let's say you want to earn $50,000 a year. Okay, that's $25 an hour in a 2,000-hour year, which is how much entrepreneurs work, about 2,000 hours. So therefore, you don't do $5 or $7 or laborer work if you want to earn $25 an hour. You do work that pays $25 an hour. Now, if you want to earn $100,000 a year, then you do work that pays $50 an hour. And what happens with most property owners is they get bogged down doing cleanup work and doing maintenance work and stuff that they could hire somebody to do for $5 or $8 or $10 an hour, and that takes them away from seeking out new properties, looking for new financing avenues, doing evaluation and appraisal to make sure they're buying properties and renting them at the right prices and amounts and so on. So what they do is they keep slipping back into doing things that are easy, that they're used to doing, and spending less time doing the things that will build their business.
All right, so if I'm hearing you, you would suggest then for real estate investors who want to best use their time is to focus on those activities that will produce greater profits per hour for them.
Absolutely. When I started off professional speaking some years ago, I struggled my way up. I typed my own letters. I made all my own phone calls. I prepared all my own brochures. I took things to the printer or to the typist or the stationery. I did everything myself. I even went to the hotel facility and I set up the tables and I set up the flip charts. And when people came in, I wrote out their name tags. And at the breaks, I served them coffee. I did everything myself. But as I became more successful, I had to hire other people to do those things so I could do things that paid at a higher hourly rate. One day, I remember I had given a seminar on a Saturday, and I came home, and my lawn had been mowed. I drove in the driveway. I was planning to mow the lawn this weekend, and I drove in the driveway, and I saw that my lawn had been mowed. And I walked in the house. I said, "Who mowed my lawn?" And my wife said, "Brian, you can no longer afford to mow your own lawn." I said, "What are you talking about? I was planning to do it tomorrow afternoon. It only takes a couple of hours." "Brian, I hired the boy down the street for $5 an hour to mow your lawn. You'd be better off sitting and playing with the kids or watching television and just relaxing after a long week than you would out there in the hot, dirty sun mowing your own darn lawn." And I agree with her. I realized she was right. And the following week when I was gone, she sold my lawnmower. So I couldn't go back to my comfort zone because I'd started off when I was a kid. I was out gardening and mowing lawns. And so the point of that story is that as you become more successful, there are things you can no longer afford to do, and if you insist on doing them, then you have no future. You're just locked in place. You can't make any progress if you're doing nickel and dime work, but you want to make good money.
All right, I'm with you. So what do you say to you said there was a transition even for yourself. As you became more successful, you started doing less and less of certain type of activities. Well, what do you say to a brand new person when I'm encouraging them from the very beginning to try to figure out a way to make it so that you're doing less of the lower paying task, but they say to me, "Well, Jeffrey, I only got so much money. I've got to do everything."
Yeah. At the beginning, as I said, at the beginning you have to do everything yourself. You have to learn your craft. You have to learn it from the ground up. Now, I am not a mechanic. I don't do maintenance work on furnaces and boilers and air conditioning systems and electrical systems and plumbing and so on and so forth. And most of the people who are buying rental real estate don't do those things either. So you get them done by someone else. For example, I have a house, and I have a handyman. And I hire this handyman for several hours a week, and he does all of the maintenance work. I have a lawn, so I hire a gardener, and once a week he comes and does all the gardening. I don't do any of that work. I focus on something else. Now, what's the most important principle I teach to people who want to be successful is called the Law of Three. And the Law of Three says that if you make a list of everything you do in the course of purchasing, renting, managing rental property, you'll find there's three things you do that are more valuable than everything else put together. They're worth 90% of your contribution, your value, and your future. So the question is, what are the three things that you do that contribute the greatest value to your work? And the way you determine these, Jeffrey, is you say, if I could only do one thing all day long, which one activity contributes the very most to my work? This is a great question, by the way. This question is worth its weight in gold. And I'm going to give you one other question in a second. But if I could only do one thing all day long, what would it be? And that will pop out at you. And it may be investigating, evaluating, assessing, inspecting prospective properties. Maybe that's the thing that if you do that and do it all day long and do it really well, That'll have more of an effect on your future than anything else. I've worked with countless people who started off with no money who have become very successful in rental property because of the basic rule. It takes money to make money, but it doesn't have to be your money. It takes money to make money, but it doesn't have to be your money. It can be somebody else's money. If you can find an opportunity where a person can earn an above-average rate of return with little or no risk, you can raise all the money you want to buy all the property you want. And most of the big guys, the Sam Zells, who started off with nothing. I have a good friend who came over as an immigrant from Lebanon. He came over and he had no money. He could barely speak English. He went to a small college, and somebody told him at the age of about 18, he came over when he was 15 or 16. At the age of 18, they said the key to the future is for you to buy real estate and manage it, and you should try to buy one piece of property a year. So he didn't know very much about that. He said, well, where do you buy property? He said, you go out of town. So he went out the outer skirts of the town he was living in. He found a small piece of property that he could buy, and he paid $25 a month on this little plot of land. And he had to work really hard. He had to wash dishes. He had to wash cars. He had to scrub floors to make enough money while he's going to school to pay $25 a month. Now, mind you, this is back in the 70s. And by pretty soon, he reached the point where he was making the money. He was paying for the property. The property began to go up in value. He rented it out, and it began to pay for himself. So he bought a second piece of property. He did that for 30 years. The last piece of property he bought was a $250 million shopping center, and he still buys one property a year. My point is that you walk before you run, and you start off, and you really do your work. You really learn your craft. And if I can just add to that, many people who get into rental property, as I did when I was young, I bought an apartment and rented it out, and it was turned out to be a very good investment. Many people don't realize that this is a business, and that a business requires, first of all, a business plan. It requires leadership skills. It requires tremendous focus on the quality of the product in the market. It requires market analysis. It requires marketing skills. It requires sales skills, customer service skills, or tenant skills. It requires a whole lot, very careful numerical analysis. This is a business. And if you don't take it seriously as a business, the people who do will eat your lunch.
Okay. Now, you mentioned different aspects of the business. One of the aspects you mentioned, back just a little bit, you're talking about financing. What do you say to the people who, as I'm sure you know, we're in a time right now, economic times, where there's opportunities all around us, especially in the area of real estate, with properties dropping and foreclosures and so forth. But my subscribers are saying to me, financing. They keep running into the obstacle of financing and challenges like that. What do you say to individuals that are running into obstacles like financing and other things, but they still want to try to reach some goals with real estate?
Well, if you're running into problems with financing, right now, what is a Treasury bond paying? Jeffrey, what? 0.5%, 2%?
That's about it.
And I just read this weekend that Americans are sitting on $7.5 trillion. Their bank accounts are full of money. There's money out there that is just going begging because the return rates are so low. They're not even as high as inflation. If you actually buy a Treasury bill, just the lowest level but most safest, you actually lose money every year because of inflation. So the money is out there. Why isn't that the investors aren't getting it? It's because they are not putting together proper financial analysis and proper financial plans. If you could put this together, anybody who wants to buy real estate, including hotels and shopping centers and entire subdivisions, can find the money to buy them if they can demonstrate to the financial partner that this is a solid investment. That's all a person wants to know. Show me that it's a safe investment. Put the numbers together. Create this as a business plan. Bring it to me and show me that I am protected on the downside and that I have a much higher upside. And that's why I keep coming back. Is people put their financial analysis together on the back of an envelope or a couple of scribbled pieces of paper, and they don't take the time to think it through and do it properly.
All right. And are you talking about the standard bank and lending institutions? Are you talking about private investors, partners?
Mostly private investors, standard lending institutions. People have to understand today that the federal government has got it set up so that they will lend money to to private investors at 3.5%, and they can borrow money at 0.5%. So what banks are doing is they're just borrowing money from the bank, and they're making the spread. So they don't have any real desire. I've just been through a lengthy refinancing of my home mortgage because rates have dropped so dramatically. It took about 6 months. Now, why? It's because they just don't want to do it. They can't not do it because they're being watched. They have to lend money because the government is bailing them out, but they don't want to lend money because they can make lots of money just sitting on what they have. So where you go is you go to private lenders, private investors, and you bring them in with you as partners. But this idea of going from bank to bank with your hat in your hand trying to raise money is a real tough deal.
It is. And I know you have your own personal rags to riches story, and you've indicated that you've been involved in different aspects of real estate and real estate development. Do you still see real estate as a viable option for an average individual to be able to create their own rags to riches story?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, you can buy properties today on very, very beneficial terms. I have good friends like Robert Allen who have taught how to buy real estate with no money down. And what they do is a very simple process. Is you start to evaluate properties. A friend of mine named Dolph teaches it very simply. It's called 110-3-1. Is you go and look at 100 properties that are for sale until you find 10 that are really well priced. And what you do is you offer to buy the properties at no money down. You'll take over the financing. You give them a note that they carry back for 5 or 10 years so that you buy the property so that it's actually making money on its face when you buy it. Now, so you make that offer for 10 people. 7 of them will throw you out in the street. 3 of them will consider your offer. 1 will buy. So it's 110-3-1, 110-3-1. And I know this guy in Phoenix, and he's an immigrant, and he came over and he took a course on this, and he went out. He was a laborer. He was a construction worker. He went out, and on the weekends, he'd just go from place to place with their homes for sale and offer to buy the house for a low price. They would offer a ridiculously low price, no money down. And he went, and he got turned down. He got cussed at and sworn at. But by the time that 10 years had passed, he owned 39 houses. 39 houses plus apartment buildings plus duplexes and fourplexes, and he was making about $30,000 a month from his homes, from his rental properties. And they said, well, how can you do that? You offer bargain basement prices, no money down. He said, well, they throw you out, but you just keep doing it over and over again. You're bound to find someone. Someone's going through a divorce, bankruptcy, moving out of town, something like that. You'll find which you know is a motivated seller, and the motivated seller will accept any terms at all. They can just get out from under it and walk away. And today it's even better because there's so many people have homes. There's 9 million homes underwater today. 9 million homes where people are sitting there saying, how can I get rid of this home? I have a client who does nothing but find homes where people want to get out of them and find people who want to get into homes who have sufficient credit to make the payments and puts them together and makes an override. There's so many creative ways to make money in real estate today in both rising markets and declining markets. But you've got to get out there and get to work. I hate to say it, Jeffrey, but most people are lazy. They won't admit it. They'll run from it. But the fact is most people are lazy. They just don't want to put in the hard hours. And at the beginning, you have to work yourself silly to learn your craft and to start to be successful. But if you're willing to work really, really hard, and it may take anywhere 3, 5, 7 years to work really hard to get really knowledgeable about how to buy real estate properly, how to rent it properly, how to manage it properly. It takes a while to learn it, but then it compounds. And then it becomes easier and easier and easier. And I have met people come over to this country as immigrants told, buy real estate. I met another guy who just buy real estate. He just bought one piece of property at a time, bought it right, rented it out to cover all the payments, set up the banking, and went on to the next property. Just kept doing that, one after another after another. Pretty soon, previous properties were generating enough cash flow for him to buy new properties, and he ended up owning, I think, 50 properties, and each one of them was paying him, $50 to $100 a month, net, paying down the mortgage, and he's still working as a construction laborer, big boots, construction helmet, bulky shirts and everything else, making absolutely fantastic money. So it's definitely possible.
I greatly appreciate you being honest with our listeners about the need to do hard work. And one of the things that really impresses me, even in this discussion that we're having today, as you're sharing your ideas and sharing your principles, it seems like I keep hearing over and over again, going back to the whole idea of doing things in a systemized way. And I hear you use the term, the person started doing something and then they would do it over and over and over again. In many of the books that I've read of yours, it seems like one of the key threads that I keep reading is the importance of doing things in a systemized manner and having systems for your business along with written goals. I would assume that this applies for real estate investors as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's so important. And people don't realize that. It's just imagine you wanted to fix a car. You take your car in to be repaired. You think they're going to look under the back and look under the front? No, they've got a system where they go and they hook everything up to the electronics and they check each part systematically all the way through until they find the problem and they fix the problem. You wouldn't expect anybody even to make an omelet without a system. And yet many people, and I'll tell our listeners something that they probably don't know already, but it's been very helpful to me, is the importance of checklists. Every single person who is successful has a checklist. And they have a checklist and they tick it off. And every single property they look at, they go through the checklist. My friends who teach real estate investing, say one of the things they include in all of their programs, here's the checklist. And it may have 49 points on it. But when you look at a potential rental property, you go through every single point and make sure you've covered every base. And with checklists, you eventually get to the point where you do it over and over again, but you always use a checklist. No matter how brilliant you are, you're always ticking off every single step. So you're always on track.
Oh, I totally agree with you. With the checklist, it helps you to become far more effective. It helps you to have something that you can actually hold accountable. You can go back to your checklist and see what the problem is. And so many real estate investors, at one time they want to have managers manage their properties and they complain about what people do. And I say to them, do you have a checklist in mind so you can give to the people that are assisting you so you don't have to blame them? You need to first take a look at yourself. And did you give them a system to be able to, that you wanted them to follow? So I'm totally in agreement with you in terms of checklist.
Oh, brother, you're right.
And did you have any last advice that you'd like to share with our listeners, our real estate investors?
Well, I will just say this, is that any time is a wonderful time to be alive if you take advantage of it. And there are an enormous number of people in real estate and in every field who are going to make an enormous amount of money in the years ahead. And why is that? It's because people will always need homes to live in. They will always need places. They will always have to rent. And and I have good friends who started off with one rental property. I can tell you some stories that just blow your mind. With one rental property, and now they own almost a mini empire of rental properties. And each one, properly purchased, began to generate positive cash flow, which they then channeled into buying the next one. And once you have 2 or 3 rental properties, the bankers will start to line up at your door saying, please take our money. Please take our money. Because when you have rental properties that work, what you do is you demonstrate, by gum, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And once you can demonstrate that if people can give you money safely because you know what you're doing, because you've taken the courses, because you understand business, well, then they will line up to give you the money. It's the most wonderful thing because everybody is looking for an outlet for money.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Tracy. Thank you for joining us and sharing of your insights of how real estate investors can increase their success. I just greatly appreciate you taking of your time. Well, thank you so much, and continued success to you, sir.
Thank you very much. You have a great day.
You too.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.